us through what we know as of this point. And remember, all of this is subject to change because the information is still coming in. But walk us through what we know right now, how this went down.
Wolf, you're absolutely right to caution about what we do know, because I've covered an awful lot of these school shootings over the years, and the early information always seems to change. So this is what we know about the timeline of the shootings as reported by law enforcement officials and witnesses, and the layout of the school as best we can piece it together. And remember, this is just a very rough approximation. About 9:30 this morning, class has been underway for about a half an hour here. More than 600 students, close to 50 members of the faculty here. The school principal, vice principal, the school psychologist, and several other adults were having a meeting up here in this part of the school, and they've gathered up right up here near the office area at that time. Around 9:40, according to what a lot of eyewitnesses have to say, that's when it would appear the gunman enters the building. How did he do that? We don't really know. We do know that later today, police were looking very hard at a car right out here parked by a fire lane, and based on what eyewitnesses said, there's pretty good reason to think he came just right through the front door into this area. We don't have a guarantee of that, but it certainly sounds like that from everything we've heard. And right away, people throughout this entire building started hearing shots. Now, some cases they said this sounded like bangs or maybe somebody hammering, but without question, people all over the building started saying they could hear something. By 9:41 or so, calls start coming into 911. The principal, the vice principal, and the school psychologist, according to witnesses, we mentioned that they were in a meeting up in this part of the building. They come out of that meeting and they go toward the gunfire out here in a hallway, somewhere in here or in here. They go out there, and the people in the room say they hear many, many more shots and a lot of shouting. And the vice principal comes back in wounded, but the other two do not. Authorities say that the shooting appears to have happened in a relatively short period of time, and they say the gunman does not roam around, but generally stays right in this area here. You heard it over and over again from the officer there saying 2 rooms. 2 rooms is where it all happened. Around 9:45 or so, teachers in the rest of the building, from all we can hear from students and from other people who've spoken about it, are doing all they can to protect their students. They don't know what's going on. Some students say they were over near the gymnasium. They say that they were actually told to hide in some closets, that sort of thing. Others, it appears, the school went into lockdown, but there seemed to be some sense that some people started leading students away from the school. I'm not sure of the timeline of that, Wolf, but we do know that certainly by the time the officers showed up on the scene, then you started having a situation where, of course, students were being led away by officers and by teachers and everybody who could to try to get them out to safety. Sometime a little bit later here, we're going to put it at 9:50, although we don't really know that that's the time because it's very, very murky, and we will get clarity over time. It's not clear how or when the gunman dies, but we know that officers have said no officer fired a gun, which would lead you to believe that he shot himself, but we don't really know that. We do know that as officers arrive on the scene here, they immediately take control of the entire building. They spread out through the building, securing rooms, making sure they know that if they have the gunman, it's the one gunman, there's not somebody else there. And they're looking everywhere for these pockets of children out here because they know there are kids hidden in the building. And I'll tell you, Wolf, in all the school shootings I've seen in recent years, this is a very common occurrence. When the shooting begins, many children, with their teachers helping them, go into hiding. And that is a very, very dangerous situation when the officers go into the building, because I've had officers say, suddenly you have people popping out behind you who were in closets or in little rooms, and the officers have to be extremely professional and calm to get through that and control the situation. But that's precisely what they did, Wolf. And at that point, you had a situation where you were able to see the officers securing the property all around there, trying to make sure they could see that the gunman was there and leading the rest of the kids out, some of them, as we heard, past actual victims of the shooting. Again, Wolf, all of our timeline here is very, very tentative right now. We're going to get a lot more, but the bottom line is this looks like it took maybe 20 minutes, 30 at most, beginning to end, from the time the shooter walked in to the time the police officers essentially had everything secured and were going through to make sure they had everything taken care of and all the kids cleared out. That's the very long process that's going on all day.
And during those few minutes, Tom, 26 people were murdered, 6 adults, 20 young children. What a horrific horrific story. Tom Foreman, thanks very much. Let's go to the scene right now in Newtown, Connecticut. Susan Candiati is there getting more information on the investigation. What are you learning, Susan?
Well, if I'm learning that the mother of the suspected shooter in this case, who has previously been identified as Nancy Lanza, was found dead in the shooter's home here in the Newtown area. I've also been told that no physical body, deceased body, was found in another home in Hoboken, New Jersey. There have been some other published reports about that. Two sources do tell us that someone was taken away for questioning from that house in Hoboken, New Jersey, and that person is believed to be the suspect's brother in this case. In other words, the brother of the suspected dead shooter in this school shooting. Now, the shooter has been described to me as being dressed in black battle fatigues and a military vest when he came into the school and began firing away. I know, according to sources, that at least 3 weapons have been recovered. One of them described as a Model 223 Bushwhacker, which is a military-style semi-automatic gun. Some of the same ammo is used in Afghanistan by our soldiers there. And that 2 other guns were also found that are described as handguns, one a Glock and one called a Sig Sauer. Wolf?
So the bottom line is that the mother, who was a teacher at that school, was found dead at her home where Mary Snow is. Mary Snow is outside that home because originally we thought the mother was inside that classroom where the gunman opened fire.
Earlier we had information that she was found in one of the classrooms. However, now I'm being told that in fact her body was found at the suspect's residence here in this particular area. We don't know whether she also lived there. One might think we just don't know. We also, Wolf, don't know the timeline. When was she killed? Was she killed before the shooting began at the school? These are the kind of things that authorities are still trying to piece together. Also, we have conflicting information about the shooter's name. We've had the name for quite some time, and there is some question as to whether the shooter is described, which brother's name is which. So we have their ages, we have the names, but we're still trying to sort that out. And officials have yet to officially release that yet, Wolf.
In this kind of a story, it's obviously not unusual that conflicting information comes in, and we constantly update, revise as we get more information, more details. Initial reports very often prove to be inaccurate. Certainly in this case, we're getting some conflicting information as well. But we'll piece it all together shortly. In about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the Connecticut State Police will have another briefing. Maybe we'll get some more detailed information at that time. Susan Candiati is on the scene. We've got all of our reporters and producers there in Newtown. Also, the investigation continuing in Hoboken, New Jersey. Our breaking news coverage will resume right after this.